Hello and welcome to the AVForums podcast for Monday the 30th of July. And joining me on this edition is Steve Withers.
I think the first thing we should do is call the Avengers.
And Steve Withers.
I know a guy.
And Steve Withers.
Is it too late to change the name?
Just the two of us.
Yeah. Next week it's just going to be you talking to yourself.
I don't mind that. I do that every day, all day, every day. It doesn't really matter. There's only the two of us this week. It is the middle of summer. It's the middle of a heat wave.
That's my fault, to be fair.
And we'll blame Steve. Steve's fault.
I had to, unfortunately, for various reasons, do it again on a Thursday, and nobody else could do it. So it was either you and me today, or possibly you, Ed, and Mark tomorrow. But neither of them seem particularly.
No, I think we'll give them a week off, because normally in the summer we do have a break, but I'm not going anywhere this year, so we're not having that break. So the podcast continues through the summer to keep you entertained while you're sitting sunning yourself on a beach somewhere nice and exotic. And if you're not doing that, then you can listen to us somewhere else. So there's only the two of us. What have you been up to this week, Steve, other than work?
Let me think. Actually, not a lot. No, it's a pretty quiet week. Just working and enjoying the weather, to be honest. I mean, one of the few real advantages of working from home is when it's like this, and if you've got a garden, you can sit in it.
Yeah, rub it in.
That's great, though, isn't it? I mean, obviously you haven't got a garden, so it's not quite the same. I think it gets quite hot in your gaff in weather like this.
Yeah, because I'm first floor, so heat rises. So I get the heat from the shops downstairs when they're open, and they've got the lighting on and everything else. So I get that, and it doesn't matter if I open the windows, because I can't get a breeze going through the house either. So it gets rather hot in here, but I can go out. So, and I have been out a few times this week. And with the school holidays, this is a completely different village when the schools are on holiday. It's really quiet, and I can get out in the car and get back again and get parked, and I'm not fighting for parking spaces and all that. Great, fantastic. So I can go out during the day. It's excellent.
That's good.
And cinema visits. I thought I would be clever and go for an early screening for the cinema visit this week.
Did it backfire?
The place was full of women. And I'm thinking, I know Tom Cruise is a bit of a pool at the box office.
Maybe it was Henry Cavill they came to see.
But it was absolutely ram-packed. And then, of course, it clicked, didn't it? Mamma Mia is on at the minute. So that's what everybody was there for. The screening for Mission Impossible wasn't very full, to be honest. But Mamma Mia looks like it was packed out, even at 11 in the morning.
My wife asked me if I wanted to go and see Mamma Mia, and I said I'd rather die. Yeah,
I think... Yeah. I'll drop you off and I'll pick you up, should be your reply there.
Yeah, well, I think, haven't you got some friends you can go and see it with? Because I don't want to go. Apart from, I mean, I don't really have. I mean, actually, I have seen Mamma Mia, the original film, and it was all right. But the idea of being in a cinema packed full of women watching Mamma Mia 2, whatever it's called, here we go again. It wasn't very appealing. Especially not when Ant-Man opens next week, so I'd much rather go and see that.
Yeah, and you got Mission Impossible, don't forget, which we've both been to see, and we'll review that in the movie section coming up. So yeah, it's not really the weather for sitting reviewing TVs, which is what I've been doing this week. So I've had a Hisense in, which I've been reviewing for the last week, and I've just got to finish the write-up and put it in the system, and it should be ready to go. But then I've got to film it, and I have to wait till the evening time to film it, so I can get the light level the right level in the room without reflections, without reflections and all the rest of it. So got to do that, and it's just too warm. And then I had another TV turn up today as well, another LCD TV. So lots to do.
Your nads and tellies, aren't you?
I am, and I got a projector turning up on Friday as well. So yeah, I'm going to go and sit in a roasting hot cinema room with a projector blowing hot air. So there you go. It's nothing worse than sitting.
You hear that?
Yeah.
Gin tonic.
Good for you. Right, competitions. What can we move in?
Absolutely nothing at the moment. There are no competitions.
Competitions are on holiday as well. There you go.
Although there have been some actually quite big comps running recently, and there are some very big prize winners coming up.
Okay.
Cowboy Bar 666, he or she won Tomb Raider on Blu-ray. Duke won the Rel T5i subwoofer, so congratulations to him or her. And Rexic 4 won the Arcam AVR 390 AV receiver, so cracking prize there, and congratulations to them as well.
Excellent. So some really good prizes there. Arcam's excellent, the Rel's excellent, and there was a Blu-ray as well.
Tomb Raider. Maybe not so good.
Maybe not so good. All right, we'll be back in a sec with some hardware news. Okay, so moving on with hardware news, we've got some reviews and stuff coming up in a sec, but is it big news? Is it not big news? It was reported in Korea, in the Korean press, that Samsung are going to release a MicroLED TV in 2019. We're just not sure what version of MicroLED they're actually talking about here, and it is really quite vague. When you read the news story, it's the wall luxury, it's going to be 30 millimeters thick, it's not going to be as high as people think, but when it actually comes to the actual technology that's going to be used, there's not a lot of really information there that's nailed down to say exactly what it's going to be. The piece actually starts veering off and talking about theoretically what MicroLED can do, but it doesn't actually say what it will do next year. And I'm guessing, I think IFA is going to be a little bit too close to get any information on this.
Might be some. I think there might be some closed door demos possibly. If they're genuinely talking about doing this next year, they might get a first look, but it might be under NDA. But yeah, that seems more likely. If it's going to be a 2019 thing, then obviously CES is the time to announce it.
Yeah, I think
or at least announce it as a concept, if nothing else, because that's what they did basically this year, isn't it? They didn't really have any product as in actual, model numbers, just various concepts that they announced. So. I mean, they've been talking about it, obviously. They were talking about it at CES this year. They still, at least at the demo I went to, they were talking about they had two different approaches. They hadn't decided which one to take yet. But, their end game, obviously, is a TV where each pixel is composed of nano LEDs of red, green, and blue. Therefore, you should, theoretically, get the best of all worlds, i.e. absolute black, very high peak brightnesses, absolute precision control because it's a pixel level, wide viewing angles, very wide color gamut. So all the things you would want, no danger of screen burn or anything like that. So essentially the best of LCD and the best of OLED all combined. That's the theory. Whether they can deliver that in anything approaching a sensible size and a sensible price is the big question. And when we asked them in January, well, when are you thinking of releasing this? It was anywhere between 1 and 9 years.
Yeah.
But I think they definitely obviously they want to get to the market as quickly as possible because otherwise, they're just going to be playing this sort of holding game. I
think that's what they are playing. And the cynic in me, and I'll be the cynical one here in this conversation, they are out on their own at the minute, Samsung. They've chosen what they're going to do, and they have said that they are not going to go the OLED route. So everybody else has got OLED screens at the minute. Samsung don't have that to compete at the minute. And the cynic in me says that we'll get something this year, but it won't be the MicroLED that we hope it'll be, where it's pixel level and all the rest of it, because I think it's too early for that. Or if they do release that, then you're talking like tens of thousands of pounds to buy one. I don't know, I don't see it happening. However, flip the coin the other way, it could be the case of Samsung realise they're out on their own and they really need to invest in this technology, and they really have gone all guns blazing to try and get something out for next year. So I really don't know. It seems a bit early to me. And it feels a little bit like they want to have something to talk about, even though they don't actually have anything to
if they can keep the conversation alive at the very least, and that way it might put people off buying an OLED now and think, well, I don't need a TV just yet. I'll wait and see what happens next year. I mean, there are other reasons for waiting to next year as well. I suppose if you want HDMI 2.1, if you want... I mean, I'm going to say if you want an 8K panel or a HFR, but I mean, those things will be around at CES, no question about it. But there's not going to be any content for either.
Really, we thought this year CES was going to be full of HDMI 2.1 and HFR, and it wasn't. It just wasn't around.
HDMI 2.1, obviously, it's taking a lot longer for the specs to be finalised than everyone thought. Plus, there's a shortage apparently of silicon, so there's not many chipsets, which is one of the problems. And also, in all fairness, you can deliver most of the things that you need right now, if not all of them, without HDMI 2.1.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the only things it's absolutely essential for are HFR and that's high frame rate, because you know what it is, high frame rate and 8K. So, since neither of those are, going to be happening anytime soon, you might find a lot of manufacturers just stick with what they've got, what works, and just use that for the time being. And maybe even at CES, this coming CES, it still won't be a big deal. But I imagine we'll see a lot more 8K panels just because they need something to talk about.
Just because 8K, yeah, basically.
Because they can.
Yeah, and, our audience, they're interested in it. They're interested in 8K and so on. But I think for the wider market, the wider market still hasn't really cottoned on to what 4K is yet. So I think 8K is just a little bit too. But then there has to be something, because NHK have said for probably the last 4 or 5 years that the Japanese Olympics were going to be the showcase for 8K technology. So I would suspect at least Japanese manufacturers to be pushing 8K, the likes of Panasonic having cameras and other bits and pieces.
I think we'll see 8K broadcast in Asia in 2020, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I know they're talking about that already in China and in Japan, but in this part of the world, forget it. It's not going to happen. Yeah. I'll be happy if they can deliver 4K and HDR, in an acceptable manner.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, the infrastructure is just not here in the West for it to happen. Elsewhere, like Japan and Korea, they've got a far better chance of actually making it happen. And of course, I don't know if you saw that video that was attached to one of the podcasts a few weeks ago, Steve, TechMoan.
Yeah, I did watch that. It was really interesting.
Wasn't it?
Those videos are really good. I like them.
Yeah, excellent videos. If you haven't seen them, go watch them. But the whole thing about pulse and high vision, I didn't realise that was early 90s.
Early 90s, they had high vision full HD laser discs. I'd completely forgotten about that. And it was and it looked pretty good, didn't it, in the demos that he showed side by side with a normal laser disc.
For the time when you consider that at
20 odd years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I had I think the largest CRT TV was 33 or 37 inches around that point, and it was massive. And I changed it for a rear projection set, which was even bigger. And then I've just had a 50-inch TV delivered today, and the guy handed it to me off the back of the lorry and says, you can't handle that on your own. Yeah. It was tiny, and it was so light. So, yeah, where we've come. But I still think it's a bit early for 8K, but we will see massive 8K, I'm sure. Will we see micro-LED? I'm sure we'll see a working demonstration of it. I'm sure it'll be more advanced than it was this year at CES. Whether we get to see that at IFA in 3 weeks' time, I don't think we will, unless they're really keeping things under wraps. I think we're more likely to see it at CES. But it's interesting technology, and at the end of the day, they might be competing against LG and other people and all the rest of it, but this is what we want. We want competition in the marketplace. We want manufacturers doing different things, because we benefit at the end of the day from the technology and the advances that they make and the investment that they make in terms of getting lines up and running to make these things. So hopefully it fulfills the promise that's there. Whether it does that this year or next year, probably a bit early to say, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's at IFA we're going to see the TV that we saw at CES, the one that was 8K with AI and micro dimming, whatever they were calling it. That's going to be what we'll see, at least publicly anyway. I'm pretty sure that's what they got lined up. But that's still local dimming. Although a lot of zones, I think they were talking about at least 10,000, weren't they, at CES? So that should be interesting to see.
It was either 10,000 or tens of thousands.
Well, they said initially 40,000, and then sort of scaled it back fairly quickly to at least 10,000. So who knows? But that was an 8K panel as well, wasn't it? So it'd be interesting to see. But I suspect that will definitely be IFA. And then maybe behind closed doors we might see some other stuff that they've got lined up, but we'll find out, I suppose, in a month.
We will. It's getting so close now. I mean, and it's getting close when the emails start. And this week has been, can you come and meet us? Do you want to come and see this? Do you want to come and see that? I've just had loads of those emails this week, and it's trying to put a diary together, because I don't know. Oh, you're the same days that I'm there, Steve. So 3 days. Well, just about 3 days.
Really. You don't get there till Wednesday afternoon. We go on Friday afternoon, so you've got a day and a half.
Yeah, actually, now thinking about it, I've got less time than I thought I did.
Yeah, you've got all day Thursday, apart from stuff you have to go to, and you've got Friday morning. I know, I've done this for the last 4 years. It's basically a mad dash around what is a massive bloody complex.
Yeah. I think in terms of our coverage this year, it's going to be strictly TV stuff this year. So I think that's what we need to cover. There should be some interesting developments. There should be some interest.
And a bit of projector.
yeah, obviously projectors as well. But I think display is definitely what we'll be concentrating on this year. We'll try and get videos out. We'll try and get interviews with people that are important, that are going to be making these announcements that we hope are going to get made, and hopefully we'll know a bit more. But I'm looking forward to it. It's been a few years since I was last there, so I'm really looking forward to IFA. I mean, CES is the show I enjoy the most, because it's the beginning of the year, because it is all the new stuff, because it is the roadmap ahead. But IFA's still an interesting show on the press days. I don't like public days.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, so what else was in the news? Yeah, Amazon. So they're going to add Dolby Atmos to Prime. They're going to launch that with a new Jack Ryan series. I saw a trailer for that yesterday before Mission Impossible.
Yeah, before the film. It looked pretty good, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It looked really good. It looks like they've put some money into it. It looks like the effects is good. Cinematography looked interesting as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that translates to the smaller screen. It starts 31st of August, so the end of the month. So Amazon adding Dolby Atmos. Have they said if it's going to be in HDR or not? I'm presuming it will be.
The series almost... I'd be very surprised if the series was not in HDR, because it's an Amazon-produced series. So my assumption would be it would be 4K HDR. It might well be Dolby Vision in the States, where the Amazon do use Dolby Vision. In the US, they don't use it in this country. Here it's HDR10 and HDR10 Plus. Apparently, although there's no way of actually being able to tell that on an HDR10 Plus TV at the moment. But the new thing is that they're going Dolby Atmos, which brings them up to the same level as Netflix, who already deliver content in Dolby Atmos. The question will be how it's delivered. Definitely over Fire TV, and then the other question then becomes whether, say companies like LG, who TVs have Dolby Atmos decoding built in, and certainly with the Netflix app you can get Dolby Atmos, so whether they'll be able to do the same thing with the Amazon app. Apple have recently, they haven't released it yet publicly, but I've got mine set up for the new beta version of TV, OS TV 12, and that's adding Dolby Atmos as well. So there'll be Dolby Atmos soundtracks, at least from iTunes, but also possibly, again, Netflix and Amazon, assuming that they update their apps within Apple TV. So I guess, as far as the immersive audio war is concerned, I think it's game, set, and match to Dolby Atmos. It
just seems like it's taken a long time. I mean, when was I at Netflix? That must have been 2016, 2015, 2016. I went for the WebOS launch, so it would have been around about then, and we visited Netflix, and that was a big thing. Well, we're going to bring Dolby Atmos, we're going to bring Dolby Vision. It just seems to have taken, it's 3 years. It just seems a little bit longer than that to get here, but it's here now, and I got to say, I'm really impressed with how Netflix deliver the technology.
Did you get Dolby Atmos from the Netflix app on Xbox?
Yes. Yes, it is there now, and you also get it. And obviously, the Xbox should be doing Vision very soon as well. There is that update coming. So,
yeah, I don't know. I did see the article where that was mentioned, but I also saw another article by the same person saying afterwards that may be wrong. He might be wrong. He may have got rough information off Microsoft.
Okay, so it might be, it might not be. It's one of them that you could build a whole software.
But it's certainly Dolby Vision. So. Who was it recently added it? Rakuten TV.
Yeah.
They now got Dolby Vision in this country. So that's Netflix, iTunes, and Rakuten TV. Here in the US, there's also Vudu and Amazon. So, coverage-wise, it's definitely expanding. Although, interestingly, whilst it seems to be expanding quite a bit in the streaming side of things, Disney, who have used Dolby Vision on a couple of their recent releases, like Black Panther, aren't putting Dolby Vision on the Avengers Infinity War and Solo releases. So whether they've had a change of heart or whether they just don't think it adds enough value, or then I don't know. That's pure speculation on my part. But interesting that they've decided not to use them. Although again, the streaming versions will have Dolby Vision. So
interesting, that one. And of course, there's the whole thing about their soundtracks. Not being dynamically reduced, but just being quieter on the discs that have been released so far as well. So interesting that's the case. I mean, it could just be that they feel that it doesn't need, those titles don't need it to sell, and why go to the expense. But then if they're on the streaming service, it means that the expense has been spent in doing the Dolby Vision grade.
Perhaps I just think that it adds more value via streaming than it does
maybe
on disc. You yourself have said, comparing Dolby Vision Ultra HD Blu-rays on a TV in Dolby Vision, and also comparing it with one in HDR10. The HDR10 looks great. So perhaps the incremental improvements are so small that they just felt like, why bother? HDR10 does a good enough job. And where we really need the help of Dolby Vision is with streaming services.
Yeah. What would be really interesting is if they suddenly went HDR10 plus. Wouldn't that set the cut amongst pigeons?
Well, I'm expecting to see some sort of announcement about that. Not necessarily Disney, but an HDR10 plus announcement of some sort at IFA.
Yeah. I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
Disc announcements at IFA, we ain't getting any discs.
Yeah, that's it. It's the last opportunity they have this year to make announcements. And the fact that it is a European show, so you've got Panasonic, you've got Samsung there, and they always have a large presence there, because Panasonic don't do anything display-wise for CES. So yeah, you would expect it to be, or expect something to happen at IFA in regards to HDR10 plus, or as you say, they'll have missed the boat on that one. I think if they don't do something soon, then Dolby's going to be, because even though Disney didn't put it on there, I mean, Disney don't do a lot of 4K discs for a start, so it's not like a big issue, but certainly loads and loads of discs now are coming out with Dolby Vision on them from Paramount, Universal, Warner's. They're certainly using them quite a lot. Sony have been using it quite a lot. So it's definitely getting a foothold as far as disc goes, and obviously it's got a big foothold as far as streaming goes. So I mean, another, if you're talking about sort of announcements at CES and then next summer releases, it's too late, I think, by then. Yeah, I think you're right. And again, like you mentioned, and I've had the Panasonic TV in recently. You've had a Panasonic TV in recently as well. If it is an HDR10 plus, it's not night and day difference between HDR10 streaming, because I couldn't tell the difference, and it wasn't telling me if it was an HDR10 plus or not. So yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one to test at the minute without any discs, or without Amazon telling you if the content you're watching is HDR10 plus. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes this year. So in terms of reviews, we've been talking about what we've been getting delivered. So I had a TV delivered today, Cello. It's their Platinum LED LCD TV. It is not an HDR TV. There's no HDR mentioned anywhere in the specs or on the box. It is a 4K UHD TV. So it's going to be interesting. This is the second sort of budget TV that I've had a look at so far in the last week. So I've got the Hisense U7A here at the moment, the 55-inch. You had a look at the 65-inch, Steve. Like I say, I'm just putting the review together now, and the video and so on, and it should be up on the site next week, early next week, when you're listening to this podcast. I've got to say, I agreed once I'd done my testing and gone back and checked some of the points on your review as well. It performs almost identically in terms of calibration and out of the box and so on. Funnily, I think yours was towards red and mine was towards cyan out of the box in terms of white balance. So there was a little bit of difference there, but obviously you're going to get panel variation. It is an LED LCD TV using a VA panel. It's a mass-produced product, so there are going to be variances there. But interestingly, HDR, I would not describe it as an HDR TV, even though it is down as an HDR TV, just because brightness wise it was 250 something nits out of the box, and that was with a 5% window, a 10% window, and full field window. So unless there's something seriously wrong, because I think you found the same thing with the 65 inch.
I had a bit more brightness than that, but not much.
Yeah, so unless there's something seriously wrong with how these TVs are performance, I actually think it's because of the price point, it's because of the panels being used, and Hisense are going for an HDR image where it's not going to introduce any issues whatsoever, because it's a mass market product, this one. It's not aimed at enthusiasts or the enthusiast market. So I think they've gone for an HDR image that's not going to cause them any issues, i.e. it's not going to overclip things, it's not going to be overly bright, it's going to be as simple as possible for the consumer. And they're sort of going for what Sony go for, and that's a consistent image, consistent brightness image. So they're not really tone mapping the image much. In fact, it rolls off once it hits 200 nits on the PQE or TF curve. It rolls off pretty quickly. Because, like I say, the peak brightness is 253, and I think I managed the absolute maximum I got out of it, 260 something in dynamic mode. So, and I tested that with quite a bit different software as well. So I used the Klein software, and I also used Kalman software. So in Kalman, you get the HDR analysis tools, and running through that, I got exactly the same readings that I was getting through the Kalman tool, which is basically, it's just a white balance measurement that it takes through the software, but it gives you a net reading of the maximum output as well. So I tested on 2 bits of software with the Klein probe, and and we both use different pattern generators now. Steve, so you're using
I use the VideoForge.
VideoForge, and I'm still using Meridio. So it wasn't even that. It wasn't the metadata being sent by our pattern generators was causing an issue. So it is just it's not really an HDR TV as we would describe it, as a high dynamic range TV. Having said that, picture quality, I've got to say, for the money that you're spending, and the 55 inch is about 650 quid. It's
cheap, isn't it?
I mean, the build quality is superb. You're getting metals. There's probably more plastic on this one than there was on the 65 inch, because obviously 65 inch is a bit bigger, so it needs a bit more strengthening. 55 inch, there was a little bit more plastic round the back, in terms of the area where the connections and stuff are kept. However, it really reminded me of the Sony design this year on their OLED. We're having the thin section at the top of the screen and then widening out at the bottom. So it had that kind of look to it. And I've got to say, build quality, they're built. It's got
the stand from Samsung about 2 years ago.
Yeah, so it's like a what is it? It's a foot stand, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And again, it was nice and easy to put together. It was nice and easy to set up. I like the fact that the hide dynamic mode in the picture modes, I quite like that. It's at the end. It's not the first one you come to. In terms of picture accuracy, out of the box, it was fairly good. Because anybody buying a TV like that is not going to get it calibrated. Not if you're paying 650 quid. You'd have to pay 50% again for a calibration to get somebody out to do it.
Yeah, you're probably not going to get that calibrated. It's got like a cinema, I think they call it cinema day, cinema night?
Cinema day, cinema night.
Yeah.
Even their standard mode was fairly good. A little bit more blue in it, but acceptable. And the sports mode, I've got to say, the sports mode, I was expecting it to be like dynamic and over the top and all the rest of it, but actually, in terms of white balance, it was really quite balanced in the sports mode. So it didn't look too garish when you were watching football content, like the grass wasn't luminous green or anything like that. It was a bit brighter than the cinema modes, but again, it wasn't overly inaccurate that it was causing issues. Obviously, motion is turned on everything, so if you don't want motion interpolation on when you're watching films, you have to go into, even the cinema modes had it switched on. You need to go in and switch all that kind of thing off, noise reduction and that kind of thing, if you want it switched off. But in terms of a consumer TV for 650 quid, 55 inches, the only disappointment was the HDR performance. But actually, at that price point, I think you can forgive it that a little bit, because I can't think of any other TV, not that I've seen loads of them at that price point, but I can't think of anything that kind of jumps out from Panasonic or Sony or anything else.
That's the tricky bit. When you start writing the bit at the end, what are my alternatives for the review? You're like, really? What are the alternatives at that price point?
Yeah, because I mean, you're looking at £800-900 before you can hit anything that can compete in terms of build quality and smart TV and that kind of thing from the major names. So you're immediately adding, nearly 250-300 quid onto the price to get up to that level. So for the money, they're really, really good. And like I say, I had a Cello TV delivered today. First time I've looked at that brand. They reached out to us. They want to bring the brand more up to date in the UK, and they wanted our opinions on the set, so they wanted to send one in for review. So I'm happy to look at that. Like I say, it's not an HDR set, it's just 4K, but we'll have a look at that. We'll see how it performs, and I'm not sure the price point, but I think it'll be even lower than the Hisense. So it'll be interesting to see that. And I do know that they are looking at another display technology, Steve. I'm not going to say much more than that, because I don't know if I'm allowed to say much more than that.
How many display technologies are there?
But once again, it'd be interesting to see what a budget brand could do with that. So that should be interesting. That's coming up from me. Like I say, expecting projectors after IFA, so that's going to be end of the month for the new projector lines, and hoping that they come out when they normally come out. I think last year they were a little bit delayed, but the nights are closing in again. Steve, it's getting back into projector season.
Excuse me.
You didn't get choked.
Sorry. You were saying? Yeah, the nights are coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't say that. It's not even August yet.
I am joking, but yeah. Well, no, I'm not joking because they actually are coming in. But
they are technically coming, but we sort of plateaued for a bit now.
Yeah. So there should be some interest. We're kind of stuck because we know there's interesting things coming. We just kind of talk about it at the minute. But after IFA, we will be able to tell you about what's coming up. There are some launch events in September as well, which are going to be really quite interesting for AVForums members as well when it comes to projectors and that sort of display side of things. So there's stuff coming there. But review-wise, I've got 2 TVs. I'm expecting a couple of Samsungs turning up at some point this month as well. I haven't seen a Samsung this year. You have, but I haven't seen anything from them, and I'm looking forward to having a look to see
Q9 55-inch.
The Q9 55, hopefully, and I'm hoping that they're going to send me a Q8 as well. And that's going to be the interesting TV, the Q8. I think the Q9 we kind of know what's coming from that. Q8 be interesting. I guess the only other TV
Q8's got a full backlight as well, so it should be just less zones, basically.
Yeah, so it should be interesting, and it's at a lower price point as well. So we've got that to look forward to. We still got LG's B8. We haven't seen anything of that yet, and that's one that I really wanted to have a look at as well. So
are they sending it out for review?
I haven't seen anything.
I've got a suspicion they aren't. But
right, okay. And then I think we've more or less seen most of the top TVs for the year at that point, and then it'll just be what is announced at IFA, and if we're going to see that sort of Q4, which hopefully we will see at least a couple of TVs coming in Q4.
A couple of Philipses at the very least.
Yeah, well, definitely, and I know I've got one of them coming, but that's probably going to be next month. A 65-inch TV that I'm going to have to struggle with. But I might do that one to Jazz this time around. But that should be interesting as well. So it's basically the 9002 in a 65-inch frame, but it's going to be interesting to see.
With an 8000 number.
With an 8000 number, which is going to be confusing as well. Or is it 8000 or is it 800?
It's 89 something, isn't it?
It's 89 something. So yeah,
8902 or something. Yeah, it's very confusing because it's exactly the same television, just with a 65-inch screen.
Yeah.
But whatever.
But yeah, I think we're going to see more of Philips this year, which is good because that's been the complaint when we've reviewed things in the past, is that people think, yeah, great, I can't buy one anywhere. And I think that's been an issue for them. But they've been telling me that that's sorted this time around. They're going to have plenty of stock in retailers and so on. So yeah, be interesting to see what they're going to do, because the 65-inch, and there's going to be, I think, some more announcements when we get to IFA as well. And Sony, I'm expecting some announcements there as well. At least 2 TVs, hopefully. Or at least 2 TV models being announced there. Whether they come out Q4, I don't know, but hopefully there'll be that. So yeah, so in terms of TVs, we're not finished, because normally this time of the year we're finished with the TVs. But everything's been a bit later, which is strange because it's been a World Cup year as well. You would think everybody would have been rushing to get out, but I think there's been issues with panel supply as well. So I think that's what's sort of held things up this year.
That's actually true. There has been a problem with panel supply. I suppose, it's a testament to the success of OLED and the fact that there is a single panel supplier, that you're going to get supply issues when you've got one company making them and everyone except for Samsung offering OLEDs as part of their lineup, and they've been selling really well. I mean, the sales have been superb. So, I mean, I guess from LG's perspective, it's great. Their gambles paid off, but they just have to up production to meet demand.
Yeah. And my understanding is that there are new lines now on tap that were coming online. They should now be online, so that shouldn't be an issue now going forward, is my understanding on that one, reading things in the Korean press and so on. So it looks like they're going to push forward. It'll be interesting. I think this time next year will be interesting to see where we are in terms of market, because OLED's been really dominating for the last little while. So it'll be interesting to see if the Samsung announcement that they've made about micro-LED actually comes true, and we have something to compete and something to push the market on a bit, and push OLED on and to innovate a little bit more. Yeah, no, I mean,
yes, I think the more popular is obviously the real benefit for everyone is going to be the prices are going to drop. The more demand, the more supply that there is, and the more companies doing it, and the more production facilities that are available, the lower ultimately the price will be. And OLED is already approaching a mass market price point. I think when people picking up B7s and C7s for $1,500, that's when you consider how much were they when they first came to market? 55-inch.
Oh, a 55-inch when they first came to market. Oh, yeah, you're talking
$5,000-6,000.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah,
$4,000 or $5,000. Yeah, it was a lot. We moved on a lot there, and like I say, if these comments do materialize into product, and we have a bit more competition in the market, it's only good for everybody then, and it moves things along. So, what are you looking at other than what we said, Steve?
I've got the Rel 801003, which is a 499 quid subwoofer. So people are complaining that I've been looking at really expensive subs recently, so I thought I'd get something a bit more affordable in. And also, I've got to say, I'm very relieved to say, a lot smaller and easier to move. But yeah, this is it looks like a cracking little sub, and yeah, I mean, obviously for people who are building a system. And they want to put a sub or maybe even two subs, and this kind of price point is a lot more affordable. But doesn't mean to say you don't get performance out of it too. So, I mean, let's be honest, Rel know how to make a sub. Yeah. They've been making subs for a long time. That's been their main, only business really. So yes, I'm expecting big things out of this.
My first subwoofer was a Rel Storm.
Mine was too. Yeah. Mine was too. Yeah. I think everyone's first sub was a Rel. I will getting in the next few days, or certainly beginning next week, the Sonos Beam. So that'd be interesting to get a crack at that.
Yeah, you've got quite a few soundbars coming up in the next few weeks, haven't you?
If I can get them out, if I can get hold of them. But I'm hopefully going to be looking at Sonos Beam, Bose 300,
okay,
the LG SK10Y.
Yeah, it looks like
Sky. Is their, Sky. Which is the one they've made with Meridian, which is Dolby Atmos, and also the Sony ZF9. Is it ZF9?
Yeah.
Which is
XF9, isn't it?
XF9, yes, the one that's designed to sort of complement the XF90.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's at least that. So quite a few soundbars, hopefully over the next few weeks or months, depending on when they come in.
Yeah, I mean, this year just seems to be running away, isn't it? It's like, guys, we're almost August. Well, we are by the time you listen to this podcast. We're into August. It just seems to have flown by so far this year. So slow down a little bit because we've still got loads of work to do. Right, so that's hardware news. We'll be back in a sec with movie reviews. Okay, so movie reviews. Before we do that, we've got to do, it's end of month, so we've got to do film of the month. Now, we know that Mark and Ed, who are not here on the podcast, won't have been to the cinema, so we can do that this week. We'll leave Ed's round up till next week, and TV shows and that kind of thing till next week. But film of the month has to be what we saw this week. For me, Mission Impossible Fallout is probably the best action-adventure film I have seen in probably a decade.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
I don't know how. The insurance companies insure Tom Cruise for these films. Yeah. Given some of the stuff he gets up to.
I've got to say, I have never really been a Tom Cruise fan when it comes to films and so on. I've put up with him. He's done a good job over the years and so on, but I've never been somebody who's actually stopped and thought, what a great actor, until I saw that yesterday. And the fact that he's 56-year-old and that it's all on screen. Now there are safety harnesses. There are points where a stuntman will stand in.
Still broke his ankle, didn't he?
And he still broke his ankle. But the fact that it's in camera, it's actually him doing the stunt. He's actually hanging off that thing, what it is that he's hanging off, or jumping over, or driving, or flying, or whatever. The fact that it's in camera and he's doing it, and he's 56-year-old, and you just think the man is a machine. And the thing is, he can act on top of that. So he's doing all this stuff, but he's acting at the same time. I have newfound respect for the guy. I really have. And it's made me look at what he does as a profession differently. Now, I know, off screen and all the rest of it, there's all sorts of different things in his private life and all that kind of thing. I'm not interested in any of that. What he does on screen, absolutely astonishing. And this movie, it has its flaws. It's not a perfect movie. You're never going to have a perfect movie or anything like that. But it sets it to do set piece to set piece to set piece, but the thing is, it actually has a coherent story to it as well, and it's a nice continuation on from the last film, and it has a nice resolution to it. But all the time there's this threat all the way through of there's a possibility that this is not going to end very well, and you have that jeopardy and that thought, and that anybody could cop it, or the story could go one or two ways, one or three ways, one or four ways. It has its twists, it has its turns, and it's all held together by Cruise and the cast. And I've got to say, who really, really impressed me, other than Tom Cruise, was Simon Pegg. Because when he was in the first few appearances he's made, I thought he was quite stilted and didn't quite fit what was going on and so on. This one, I just thought his confidence levels, his belief in the character that he was playing, it was more believable. He had a lot more on-screen presence, and you believed him more in the role that he was playing. So I thought he came across really well, and overall I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would recommend you go and see it. I saw it in 240:1 it was on a big screen. It was a 200, 300 odd seater, but it was in 2D. I'm going to go back and see it in IMAX, I think, because I think it's going to be a different experience again. I obviously going to have to sit through 3D, but I've read some of the comments on the forums. People have seen it in 3D and said it's actually quite good in 3D. So I think I'll go and see it again this week. And go and see it on IMAX, because I think it's worth it to go and see it again. I really enjoyed it. You?
I thought it was superb. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was, it's certainly, I think it's one of the best films I've seen this year. Never mind this month. It's definitely one of the best action films I've seen in a very long time. The set pieces, the stunt work, the stuff that Cruise does himself, are all top class. It's got a great plot. It's reasonably complicated that makes you think a bit. It's got a solid villain, and I think the whole cast were excellent. The direction's superb. Christopher McQuarrie. So this is the first time that someone they haven't, because normally with these films that they have a different director each time. So Christopher McQuarrie wrote and directed Rogue Nation. So he's actually the first time they've had a director come back do a second Mission Impossible film. But as you say, Phil, it does carry on from Rogue Nation to a certain extent, with a few little nods here and there to the other films in the series too. So it kind of feels like a culmination. So if he doesn't do any more, although I suspect he probably will, so I think this is going to do quite well at the box office, but you've got to wonder how many more he can make at 56 years old, because he does more running in this film than I've ever seen him do in any film. And Tom Cruise likes to run in his films. Unfortunately, every time I see Tom Cruise running in a film now, I immediately start thinking about the joke in Family Guy, which I won't repeat, I don't want to get sued. But that thought's always in my head when he's running. It was a brilliant film.
It's in this movie as well, isn't it? There's one take
running along the rooftops.
And he's doing that,
which is where he breaks his ankle. And the scene where he breaks his ankle's in the film. You see him pulling himself up and hobbling with a broken ankle, but he kept going. He didn't break character. He didn't stop shooting. He finished shooting. So you got to respect that. I got to say, there was stuff in it I thought, like, well, that must be CG. And I realised after reading about it that the halo jump was for real. He actually learned how to halo jump. He learned how to fly a helicopter, for God's sake.
Yeah.
It's just insane. Annoyingly, though, there is a twist. One of the characters, isn't who you think is really obvious. Because on the basis that there's only a certain number of characters in the film. So by a process of very quick elimination, it has to be him. But also, if you've seen any of the trailers, you'll also know it's him because he's in the bloody trailers, annoyingly. But it wasn't like hard to work out. It's like, okay, he's obviously going to turn. But that point aside, the fact that the sort of plot twist was, you can see it coming about 5 miles away. Other than that, I thought it was a cracking film, and I really enjoyed it. And and then the ending, really tense, wasn't it? It was like they really piled on the pressure in the last sort of 15 minutes, 20 minutes is absolutely nail biting, and also it's got some good humour in it too. Like a little bit, why won't you just die? So yes, I absolutely. I mean, Kaz gave it 10 out of 10, and I'd have to agree with him. There are 9, 10 out of 10, definitely. It's an absolutely superb film, and it's incredible to think that these films have been going since 96, so 22 years now, and they're getting better and better, and they really knocked one out of the park. Yeah,
hopefully they'll do another one. But again,
I'd be happy if he did, because I think they've set it up nicely with some new characters that come into this film. Things like Vanessa Kirby's character. What was her character called? Oh, the White Widow. I quite liked her character. So, and like to see her again. And obviously Angela Bassett's as the head of the CIA. So you might see her again. And and obviously, like you say, Simon Pegg, and this is his fourth Mission Impossible film now, so he's really got the hang of it. I think he's really fitted into the part nicely. Ving Rhames was good as always. Rebecca Ferguson comes back from the previous film, and she's great. The only one missing actually was Jeremy Renner, because he was in the previous two. But I think he couldn't do this film because of his Avengers commitments. So that's a shame. But great film, really enjoyable. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, although it's going to be a big ask to outdo what they've done. With
I don't know. Yeah, but mind you, I said that last time when he was hanging off the side of a plane.
Yeah, I suppose. and this is the thing with Cruise, you never know.
Or the Burj Khalifa scene.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. And this is the thing with Cruise, though. You never know what you're going to get. No. You never know which Tom Cruise you're going to get.
Do you think maybe they start the film at the script stage, like, right, Tom, what mad things do you want to do this time? And let's make a list.
Yeah. No, it definitely, if you haven't seen it yet.
Do you reckon next time they're going to send him into space, aren't they? He's going to have to go to space next. I don't see what else he can do, really.
Yeah, he's done almost everything else there is to do, so it'll be interesting to see. And of course, he's doing another Top Gun, isn't he? So he's doing all right for a guy who broke on the scene 30 years ago. 5 years ago.
I remember seeing, the first thing I saw Tom Cruise in was The Outsiders, and I think that was 1983. So 82 even, possibly 82. Taps, when was that? 81, 82. Yeah, he's been around. I've known Tom Cruise, well, not personally known him, but he's been an actor. I've seen his films since the early 80s. So yeah, long time.
Yeah. So yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, go see it, and you have to see it on the big screen. It's one of those
the bigger
films
screen, the better.
Yeah,
it's a real big screen.
Absolutely.
Although I got to say, I don't know, you thought this. I suppose the first half an hour, I guess the scenes took place at night or dusk or in dark places. But I remember thinking, like, what is it with modern films? Can someone put some lights on something, please? It was very dim for the first 20 minutes or so.
I didn't find it dim. I know the scenes that you're talking about. That might have been the screening that you were in. Because it didn't look overly dull, if you know what I mean. I know what you mean, but it wasn't.
But also they were nighttime scenes and that sort of stuff, so they were meant to be darker. But I just kind of felt like put a light on someone. Also, it was a bit later on when there was an awful lot of lens flares. And J.J. Abrams produced this one, didn't he?
Yeah, I did notice that.
Enough with the lens flares, for God's sake.
But you see,
that was the shootout in the dark tunnels.
Yeah. But I thought that was a nice little. I actually thought
it was a deliberate nod.
I thought it was a deliberate nod because it did stand out quite a bit, and I thought, all right, that's a nod to Abrams, I think. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, go see it. See it on the biggest screen possible. I'm going to go and see it in IMAX. What about you, Steve? You going to go back and see it again?
No, because I've already booked for Ant-Man and the Wasp on Thursday night.
All right. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm forgetting.
I'm really looking forward to.
I haven't seen Ant-Man yet.
Oh well. Never mind. It's a bit late. It's been out. You've had 3 years, to be fair, to watch it. So
I'll try and watch it this week. I'm just trying to think where I can see it. I know it was on Netflix. It was on Netflix. It wasn't there when I went to look for it. So it's gone.
Well, you probably get it for like tenner on Amazon. Add it to your pile. No, I enjoyed Ant-Man. I thought it was good fun. Smaller scale, and this again I think is obviously going to be slightly. Obviously, it suffers a little bit, come off the back of the Avengers Infinity War, which was huge, wasn't it? I mean, not just huge in terms of its box office, but huge in terms of the film. So this is going to seem a bit of an anticlimax after that. Clearly, it takes place chronologically before Infinity War for obvious reasons, and I guess we'll explain why Ant-Man isn't in Infinity War. And I'm assuming at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, there'll be some sort of scene to tie in with the events of Infinity War. But, I like the small-scale humour of Ant-Man, and no pun intended. So I'm quite looking forward to this.
Yeah, they're not setting it up as a big blockbuster. No. They're setting it up as a little film, a little big film.
And wisely, what Marvel have done with these smaller films is they have been lower budgeted movies. I mean, they're still expensive, but not as expensive as, say, Infinity War, which probably cost something like 300 million. But this is like a smaller budgeted film, a smaller scale film. And so if it doesn't do quite as well, and it's doing okay at the box office, it's not making massive money, it'll still break even and make some cash, which is the mistake, obviously, that Lucasfilm made with Solo. Yeah, they should have gone in with a lower. But when you end up spending 300 million on something because you film it twice, you immediately have to basically make 700 million just to start breaking even.
Yeah.
So you're already struggling. Whereas Marvel have cleverly thought, okay, well, Ant-Man's going to be limited appeal, so we're not going to make as much money as we make on an Avengers movie, but we know we can make enough to make money. So yeah, it's fair enough. That's also, is it the third Marvel movie this year? I think because Black Panther, Avengers, and then this. Plus, there's been, I think I'm on my 5th Marvel TV series at the moment. So I'm a bit marveled out right now, but I am still quite looking forward to Ant-Man and the Wasp. Mainly because I like Paul Rudd.
Okay. Like I say, I haven't seen Ant-Man. I'm going to try and see it this week before I go. I'm going to go to the cinema, so I need to see it. So I'll find a way. I'm just looking on Amazon now. I'll find a way of getting it. Which brings us on to discs. So disc of the month. I'm just looking at my Amazon order history just to check if I did buy anything this month. I didn't. I've got a pre-order in now, but that's Ready Player One, and that's not out till the 6th of August. So for this month, I haven't bought a disc. So my disc of the month is going to be A Quiet Place. So it's not out in the UK till the 13th of August, but I got the US disc, which came out in July, and that's A Quiet Place, which I really, really enjoyed. I think it's a great little sort of horror thriller, an interesting concept. Small scale. We're talking about a cast of only really 4 people: mother, father, and their 2 children, a deaf daughter and a son. The father's John Krasinski, who we'll be seeing playing Jack Ryan quite soon in the Amazon series we talked about at the beginning of the show, and also Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt is absolutely. She's rarely bad in a film, but she's great in this. Really good as a mother trying to deal with a world where, I mean, the film's really, it's like a lot of great films. It's really about, a family dealing with tragedy, but in the context of a horror film in a world where these monsters are running around that are attracted to noise, so you can't make any noise, and that's the concept. You have to be quiet all the time, or they'll attack and kill you. And she's pregnant, and babies aren't known for being quiet, so she's got to deal with trying to give birth without making any noise, and also keep a family together and protect them, etc. And it's a cracking film, co-written and directed by John Krasinski as well, who does a fantastic job. But the best thing about it in terms of the disc is the sound design. The sound design is absolutely brilliant, because trying to create a soundtrack for a film where they're not meant to be making any noise is genius, because, obviously, no matter, it's never quiet, the soundtrack. There's always sounds, insects, the wind, leaves, people's breathing, people walking on sand because they're trying to muffle their footprints. People do occasionally talk. It's very little dialogue in the film. They usually talk with sign language. But then when something does happen, when someone makes a noise or one of the monsters turns up, the dynamic range is absolutely enormous. Going from, you get so used to it being quiet that when something loud happens, it's just really loud. Plus, they also shove in a shed load of bass to really give it more impact. And they make good use of the overheads for the Atmos soundtrack as well. It's lots of really directional sound effects. It's a cracking soundtrack, and a really good film. So I highly recommend A Quiet Place when it does come out in 2 weeks. And order.
Yeah, you won't regret it, trust me.
Well, while you were waxing lyrical there, I have just placed my pre-order on Amazon, so it should be here when it's released. Right, so that brings us on to disc releases for this coming week on Blu-ray and UHD 4K.
Yeah, on Blu-ray, we have Pacific Rim Rising, also out on 4K disc as well. I actually got the disc. I bought it from the States, so I've had it quite a while. Must have come out earlier in America. I think I've had the disc for at least a month. I haven't got around to watching it yet. Although I'll be honest, my hopes aren't high because it's not Del Toro who made Pacific Rim, so I think it's going to lack the artistry. Certainly from reading the reviews, it's a bit stupid and silly, and not that Pacific Rim wasn't stupid and silly, but it was stupid and silly in an artistic way, which I can deal with more than like Hamlet in just a dumb way. But that's out on both Blu-ray and 4K disc this week. We've also got Dead Ringers, which is I'm not sure if this has had a Blu-ray release recently, if at all. So this is David Cronenberg's film, which I've ordered actually because I do like Cronenberg, and it's one of the few of his body horror films that I don't have in my collection, so I'm going to order that. We also got F for Fate, which is a Criterion Collection film. It's a documentary made by Orson Welles, which I've seen, and it's really, really good fun, because at the beginning of the documentary he says to you, for the next hour, everything I'm going to tell you is the truth, which he does. But of course the film's longer than an hour, and you forget when the hour's passed, and at a certain point after an hour, everything he starts telling you isn't true, but you don't realise that. It's quite clever the way that it's structured. It's about illusions and magicians and fakery and art forgery and this kind of stuff. But it's a really interesting documentary and very clever with it, so worth checking if you haven't seen it. And also coming out on Blu-ray is Cannibal Ferox. Not my cup of tea. If you're a cannibal movie fan, it's right up your street. This is a really famous one, really horrible. I used to have it on Laserdisc. I had the US release. It was actually Sage Sylvester Stallone's son, whose company who released it on Laserdisc in the States, who then died actually really young. It's a horrible film. Not so much the gore. I don't mind the gore, but there were actually scenes in it, which is one of the reasons why it was banned in the UK, of like animal cruelty, real animal cruelty, which I found offensive. So that's been cut. This version is still cut of any kind of animal cruelty, which I totally agree with. But it's uncut in terms of the fake gore stuff that was also got in the trouble the first time around. But if you're a cannibal movie fan, and I'm sure people out there are,
or just a cannibal,
or a cannibal, yes, Cannibal Ferox is out on Blu-ray this week as well.
Okay, announcements. Anything been announced?
Well, yes, there's been some announcements, although they've been, so first of all, in terms of only available on 4K this week, so this is because it's already been released on Blu-ray, but The Equalizer with Denzel Washington is coming out on 4K disc this week as well, which actually I saw on a plane and quite enjoyed. Denzel does revenge extremely well, and it's another one of those films basically where he's like, someone wrongs him and then he goes and kills everyone, a bit like Man on Fire. That's out on 4K disc this week. So in terms of announcements, there have been 2 announcements made, both of which were heavily rumoured anyway, which is 17th of September for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and the 24th of September for Solo, a Star Wars story.
These are US release dates.
These are the US release dates, but in the case of Solo, definitely 24th September is confirmed for the UK.
Okay.
So that's the Monday, 25th for the US. Jurassic World is confirmed 17th, it's Tuesday 17th of September for the US. I'm assuming it would be similar for the UK because it came out day and date in both countries for cinema release as well, so it shouldn't be any different with the UK.
Okay, and we've already covered that Disney have dropped Dolby Vision on Avengers and Solo, so we've already covered that one. So we were going to do TV shows of the month. We're going to hang on to that for next week when the other guys are back on the podcast, because they do watch TV and they'll have stuff to add in there. And it's always interesting to round up what people have been watching over the month, because there's been some really excellent TV happening this month.
There has been some bloody good telly.
Yeah, excellent. And I did watch that one that you recommended about Trump.
Fourth Estate.
Oh, what a documentary. They will win loads of awards for that. That is superb TV. Absolutely super. I was hooked. I was on this edge of my seat at some point. I was thinking, that didn't happen, did it? Really?
Yeah,
and when he phones the journalist in the office, and you're thinking, she's sitting talking to the president of the United States.
It's the one where the crowd start to turn the journalist at the back of the room when he's at one of his rallies. Yeah. That's really scary.
Yeah.
And he's doing it again this week. We're talking about, don't believe anything you read, it's all lies, fake news. It's like, it's a really timely documentary to remind us how important it is a free and fair press, how important that is to democracy.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we'll do TV shows next week, and we'll also do Edge Roundup and that kind of thing. So, Clone Wars is back.
Yeah. Obviously, it's been San Diego Comic-Con in the last week. No one was expecting much from Star Wars because I guess they're keeping their head down after Solo, and there's nothing coming until
episode 9.
End of next year, which is episode 9. But Dave Filoni, who's been put in charge of all animated product for Lucasfilm, quite rightly, because he's been doing a brilliant job. I know when Clone Wars was cancelled after the buyout, that rankled with him because he hadn't finished telling the story he wanted to tell yet, and he has tied up some of the loose ends in Rebels, but he obviously wanted to, and now he's in charge of the animation. He's bringing it back, so it's come back for 12 episodes, and I guess it's going to tie up all the loose ends that he didn't get a chance to do the first time round. But that's good news because I think Clone Wars is really good. If you haven't seen Clone Wars and Rebels, the good Star Wars stuff has been done in the animated realm. These shows have got great ideas and are true to the spirit of Star Wars and are far more enjoyable than the films have been. So check out Clone Wars if you haven't seen it. There's some great stuff in there, and also Rebels is worth checking out too if you haven't seen that as well.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that, and I've yet to buy up the Clone Wars box set, so I have every intention of doing that and catching up with it, because I only saw season 1. And Rebels, I've only been through season 1, but I've actually got the Rebels discs there to watch. I just need to find the time to do that. So, I might do a Rebels and a Clone Wars thing at some point in the next few months, and then try and catch up with it. That's interesting. There wasn't much that came out of Comic-Con. Normally you get lots of big film announcements, lots of big trailers and all the rest of it. It was particularly quiet this year.
Yeah, well, no Marvel. Marvel weren't there. Because they haven't really got anything to announce at the moment. They've obviously, everyone knows they've got Captain Marvel coming out in 8 February, March of next year, and then obviously Infinity War Part 2, whatever it's called, in the end, the film's called. And I guess they just felt it was, what's the point of showing up to say we haven't got anything to announce? That seemed a bit pointless. So they weren't there. Lucasfilm was there, but in a much smaller capacity than in previous years. DC are still, they were there, but, given the troubles they've had in terms of their film product of late, no one was really that holding out much. I mean, Shazam's coming out, Aquaman. So there were some trailers, like Aquaman's trailer actually looked quite good fun. That's coming out in December. But I mean, most of the big announcements have been like, they're doing a Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing another Joker movie with Jared Leto. It's like, really? 2 Joker movies? Do we even need a Joker movie? I mean, Joker's kind of a character in Batman. It shouldn't need. So I don't know. Looking at Marvel and then looking at DC just seems directionless. It just seems to be just chucking stuff at the wall, see what sticks. Yeah. Whereas Marvel seem to have a plan.
I mean, when it comes to DC, I think, am I right in saying that Wonder Woman's the only thing that's really performed from them?
Well, Batman vs Superman made good money. I think it's still the most successful internationally of all their films, but it wasn't received particularly well critically. Wonder Woman was both successful critically and commercially. Whereas Suicide Squad again was quite successful commercially but didn't do very well critically. Justice League bombed both commercially and critically. So Wonder Woman's the one, and obviously they got Wonder Woman 1984 coming out, which is strange to do 1984. You kind of, do we need a Wonder Woman from the 80s? Because she's been in, well, like Justice League's now sort of going back in time to 84, and as with anything that's set in the past, you're kind of like, well, we know that person can't die because they're in this film, and that person can't die. So there's always, it kind of diminishes the tension. It's a bit like watching Solo, isn't it? Really, you think, well, he can't die, so how much threat can you really be in?
That's it.
So it's a weird one, but DC's. I think there's a lot riding on Aquaman. I think they need a hit. They need a hit really badly. So I guess they're hoping Aquaman does well.
Did you see the trailer for Godzilla? What did you think?
I did, and well, I'm just not interested in Godzilla, to be perfectly honest. It's just a bit silly, isn't it? Big fire-breathing monster. I don't. Yeah. It's got an interesting cast. It's got the girl that plays 11. What's her name? Millie Bobby Brown. Millie Bobby Brown, who's is a good actress. But I don't really care.
No,
to be honest.
I saw that trailer and I saw a couple others from Comic-Con. I thought, not interested in any of those. I mean, I'll go and see them because I've got a Limitless card and I need to use it every month.
Exactly. Got to get some value out of the bloody thing.
But there's nothing that I'm really looking forward to be honest. Just wrapping up on the trailer thing, it wasn't a Comic-Con thing. It came out a couple of weeks before that. But there is a commercial for a mall from the 80s. Did you see it?
Yes, I did see that. Yes, that was quite funny.
Wasn't it? It was...
got me excited again for Stranger Things Season 3.
And I think number 3 is going to be it, by all sounds of it. So,
well, the thing is, they've only got a finite time window of opportunity, haven't they, before the kids grow up?
Yeah, exactly.
So I would like them to finish on 3. I don't want to see them try and squeeze out 4 or 5 seasons when the kids are in their mid-teens and looking gawky and weird. Just stick, finish on a high. I'm looking forward to it, but I don't want them to milk it too much.
No, and don't overdo the nostalgia thing as well. Which that trailer was funny, but at the same time it was like, oh, please don't do this for the scene. Don't overdo the whole nostalgia thing. It's nice that nostalgia's there when it's surrounding what's actually going on, but the strength of it was an excellent story and an excellent cast. And it was interesting, and the nostalgia was just part and parcel of that. I don't want them just to make it into some kind of nostalgia fest. I love season 2. I thought it was really good, quite emotional actually. It was, and I thought actually on the ending of season 2, I thought that would have wrapped it up nicely actually. At that point, they could have They could have left it at that. But it's good that they're coming back for another one. I just hope that this is the last one. And hopefully it'll be entertaining. That's it for the podcast this week. I've got a long list of people I need to thank. Steve Withers.
Would you like to try our mango fruit blast?
And Steve Withers.
All right, Princess, let's get back to work.
Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, bookmark AVForums for the latest reviews, news and videos, and of course, leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, but only if you enjoyed the show. I'm Phil Hinton, thank you very much for listening, and we'll all be back next week, so come and tune in and see us then.